Hi, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I'm here today with a second video featuring these Color Whip food safe foams to make sort of a marbled colored yarn. Earlier I filmed a video using one of these kits with a pre-knit sock blank, but now we're going to use this on a skein of yarn and see when we play with the marbling what kind of beautiful colors we can get when we then roll some yarn somehow into the foam. So let's get started. The edible foam that comes in this kit is composed of sugar and some enzyme modified soy protein. And the foam that we got was actually really sort of thick, and it was stable for a long period of time. So you do have some time to sort of get everything together after you've whipped up the foam. The yarn I'm dyeing today is some Stroll fingering weight yarn. This is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I pre-soaked the yarn in some tap water with 3 tablespoons of white vinegar, and then I put it through my salad spinner to remove the excess yarn because that seemed like a good idea for then adding the yarn onto our colorful foam. The kit says to mix with an electric mixer for about 3 minutes or until you get stiff peaks. But I found that things sort of were ready to go a lot sooner than 3 minutes. Nevertheless, I still don't think that I would choose to mix this up by hand. Yeah, these are definitely stiff peaks now. And I did not clean off the cookie sheet from the way that I had used this before, but I'm going to use sort of get resituated and then use my spatula to spread this foam out onto a cookie sheet, so then we can add the food coloring and then add our yarn. I'm not worried about the residual food coloring. I could have wiped it down, but I'm now going to, yeah, and there's still some on the spatula as well, but I'm going to start spreading out this foam. The consistency is pretty thick. It's a lot more like Cool Whip than like a spray, what do you call it? Spray whipped cream. But less thick than, say, shaving cream. So, just sort of spreading this out. And so in the last time I added the colors sort of all over the foam. And I mean, I have no idea how I would make this exact foam from scratch, but you could absolutely get these kits, use this foam, and then save these food colorings for something else. So this time, I think I'm going to try to add the food coloring to sort of quadrants, and then we'll sort of mix it together a bit more. These do have like slots on them where I could tie off the, like I could tear off the top, but I was honestly just nervous to do that. But we can add some splatter red to the other side. Let's do some green around here. And it's funny, I wonder what the volume is inside these kits. It doesn't really say what the volume is over here. And but I'm going pretty random, but also getting some just mixed in, and then we'll sort of swirl this around. Because last time I didn't want to swirl it very much, just because I was afraid, because I had the colors sort of more all over, but I was afraid of over mixing it and getting all one color. But this time I think that I can play around a lot more with the swirling. And now, the instructions say to use a toothpick, and maybe if you're doing an Easter egg, that would make sense to use something smaller, but maybe I will pull out a toothpick in a second. I mean, this foam is like really thick. So my marble swirls may not be perfect. But again, I've never really tried any kind of marbling before. So let me get a toothpick. Have them right here. But I love, yeah, so you could get some, I mean, it's funny because if you're dyeing an egg like this kit is intended for, then some of these more like little swirls can make a difference. But I sort of am digging, ooh, it could be cool like with snow dyeing to sort of mess things around a bit. I mean, the foam is no longer even. Even around here. And if I tilt it, I'm not sure if you can get a sense of the topological pattern, but certainly this foam is not going anywhere. Now I am ready to sort of add the yarn, and I think what I'm gonna do is get really, really messy. So I'm gonna add the yarn, sort of, I'm gonna try, see if I can do this and sort of like spread out and add the yarn onto one side, and then spread out and sort of add yarn onto the other, press down a bit, and then lift, press, and just kind of go nuts. That is my plan. So maybe I won't even need plastic wrap, because as long as I don't over mix it too much, I should get color sort of all over. But yeah, this, I mean, there definitely will be white patches, but you can see that I have, you know, I'm soaking up the foam slowly, but there is still absolutely color in a lot of different places. So, you know, I mean, would you be able to tell that you got marbled, you know, if you're just using yarn? Not necessarily, but this is actually pretty cool. Oh, sorry guys. I moved it a bit. Okay. Oh, and look at my gloves. As I'm waiting for my steam pot to heat back up, I am basically just letting this sit. I could wrap it up in plastic wrap, but I don't think that's necessary. We have, right now at least, discrete blue, red, yellow, green patches and colors that have mixed together. So I honestly don't mind if the yarn touches each other and if there's some color transfer. But I'm now going to put some gloves back on, pick this up, and put it directly into my steamer basket. The yarn is sitting in the steamer basket, and I'm gonna let it steam for 20 minutes before we remove the yarn. I just took the yarn out of the steamer basket, and it is amazing. There's still like yellow patches, and you see primary colors. There's some areas where maybe some of the colors ran together a bit, but this really reminds me, it's like an impressionistic yarn with all of these colors together. I checked, and the water bath under the steamer basket was clear, so the color all remained in the yarn. It didn't drip down. I am a little concerned about the foam. I don't see it right now, but I certainly, ooh. Okay, so the yarn feels sort of, and it's not slimy, but you can tell that there's something on it that is not just wet yarn. So this will require some washing, but for now I'm going to let it cool a little bit before I start the rinsing process. I just plopped the yarn into some rinse water, and we have a tiny bit of bleeding like we saw with the sock blank. I have no idea if the foam absorbed some color, and that's why we're seeing bleeding, but we've got a ton of color in this yarn, so I am not super worried. It's just we're gonna need to go and wash it thoroughly to try to get the sugar stuff out and you know, whatever that soy protein was, and then the excess color. But already the yarn is feeling less sort of slimy. So it occurred to me that as I was rinsing the yarn, that soy protein is fiber. So some of the food coloring could have bound to our foam. I mean, obviously almost all the color is in the yarn, but that could have been the reason for the really, really heavy bleeding that we saw at first, and how now there's next to no bleeding. So I'm going to add some clear dish soap, and I still plan to wash this a few more times than I might normally rinse the fibers, but you know, there's very little bleeding now, and I'm going to rinse, and maybe I'll do soap one more time after this, and then I'll hang up the yarn to dry and show you our lovely, lovely, lovely finished yarn. Here is the finished dry yarn. What is amazing about this yarn is that you can sort of see the 4 quadrants that we started with: yellow, red, blue, and green. And so it's kind of fun because it did, some of the patterns that we created did stick with the yarn. But within the sections, we have this fantastic variation of tone. And so this yarn is really, really like an impressionist painting in the way that you've got these little micro color transitions. And I honestly cannot think of another technique that would let you get something with this level of variation within the yarn like this. I mean, there's probably some breaking as well, but the way that these colors mixed together is absolutely extraordinary. The yarn is really soft, but still feels a little bit not quite what I would expect from other yarns that I dye with food coloring. There is some residual something from the foam still here that has slightly altered the texture. I think the yarn is still completely knittable, and this will resolve itself with some additional washing. At one point I mentioned that the yarn felt a little crunchy, but with some handling, this yarn feels really, really soft and bouncy. So I'm not sure if there's still something in there, or just like a pair of jeans that you air dry, it feels stiff for a minute, and then when you handle it, it's soft again. So what do I think? Is this something that I would reproduce? Absolutely. Slight texture issues aside, I still think that this would be absolutely lovely to knit with, and I would really, really enjoy playing with these colors. In fact, this might have to remain in my personal stash and might have to start becoming some socks in the near future. Some of you have seen the dyeing of this yarn before this video came out, and that's because while I was filming this episode, I was also doing a live stream during the dyeing. This was sort of a sneak peek of the types of sneak peeks I am offering to people who become patrons of ChemKnits, and you can learn more by going to my Patreon page, the ChemKnits Patreon page. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed this exploration into using a foam technique to dye yarn. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. Thanks for watching!